everyone, welcome to my second episode of Plant Grow Eat. Thank you so much for all of you that watched my first video, Plant Grow Eat Sweet Potatoes. I really appreciate all the feedback. I appreciate all the love I got. Don't forget to click like and subscribe so you can see my upcoming videos. On today's video, I want to go through all the top tips that I have in growing sweet potatoes. I also want to go through all the mistakes I made. I can tell you, as a new gardener, I made a ton of mistakes when growing sweet potatoes. I consider my backyard my lab, and I've done some good things and bad things. So what I want to do today is go through those tips and also tell you about the mistakes so that you can be successful in growing your sweet potatoes. So the first tip I want to talk to you about today is location. It's very important that you get the right location. Even though sweet potatoes can grow just about everywhere because they're very hardy, they really thrive in a sunny location. So the first thing you do is find a sunny location in your garden. What I did is I actually came outside several times of the day to see where the sun landed in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Sweet potatoes grow well in either full sun or in partial sun, but it will grow. The next tip I have for you is how to cut a slip. I got several questions regarding the best way to grow the slip and also how to remove the slip. So I'm gonna show you that right now. Come with me. If you remember from the last episode, I had mentioned that you can either grow your slips by putting the sweet potato with toothpicks in a cup of water, or you can put it halfway in soil. I realized that I'm gonna encourage you guys to put it directly in the soil. I find that when you put it in the water, even though a lot of people like that method, sometimes the sweet potato starts to rot and it gets really stinky. Plus it takes like 6 weeks for the slips to grow. Whereas every time I put it directly in the soil and cover it halfway, it grows really quickly. So I want to show you what it looks like. And this can be done not just if you don't have to put it outdoors, you can actually keep it in a small shoebox filled halfway with dirt and stick the sweet potato in a shoebox if you don't want to actually put it outside. But here's a sweet potato I put in the soil like 2 weeks ago. And as you can see the sweet potato here, but it already has a slip. Someone also wanted to know, how do you separate the slip from the sweet potato? And it will work the exact same way, whether you grew it in a glass of water or you grew it in the ground. You just go like this. You separate the slip. It's easy. It just comes right off. I didn't even need this. It comes right off. And here, you stick this directly in the ground. If I was ready to plant this here, I could literally just separate and stick it in the ground. But I'm gonna put it in a pot somewhere else, but I'm gonna stick it here for now. You can see that there are already some, oops, no, those aren't slips. But this is gonna continue sending up additional slips, and those also can be pulled off and placed either in a pot, in a container, or it can be placed directly in the soil to grow sweet potatoes. It's hot. So the next tip is it's the soil. It's very important to have nice, moist, but very loose soil and rich soil. So if you look at the soil here, you can tell it's not hard, it's not compacted. Be sure you don't have compacted soil because the sweet potatoes need to be able to spread their roots and grow. They won't grow well, the roots won't really be able to spread down, and the sweet potatoes won't develop well if the soil is too compacted. So what I love to use is Kellogg's potting, and I think it's called Kellogg's potting and raised bed mix. You can get it at Home Depot. What I like about it is the price is great, and it's certified organic soil. So you know you're not putting anything bad in the soil. There's nothing bad that's gonna be in your body. So have nice loose soil. If you can get the potting mix and just use that straight, but I personally like to add organic matter. So I always add cow manure compost, and sometimes I add bone meal. Bone meal you can get at any of the hardware stores, as well as cow manure. I like to use the yellow bag. It's called, I think, Black Cow. I like to use that. Same thing if you're growing in the ground, it's better, or on a raised bed, it's better for the bed to be the soil to be at least 8 inches deep. That will give the potatoes room to grow. I actually prefer 12 inches deep, but it depends on the size bed you have. But if you don't have space, as I said before, I love to grow my sweet potatoes. I usually grow them in containers. So, and this is actually a 17-gallon tub. It's huge. It's actually a wash basin I got from Walmart for only $4.95. But it's the same thing. You can tell It has beautiful, look at that soil, how rich it is. That's rich, beautiful soil. And you know, the sweet potatoes are gonna go really well here. I also love the grow bags. You can get these on Amazon. What I love about these grow bags, some of them have a window, so I can actually pull a flap and you can see my sweet potato vines growing, and you can check the status of the sweet potatoes. Of course, they're not ready yet because these were planted like maybe a couple months ago, but pretty soon when you pull it up, you're gonna actually be able to see the potatoes growing here. Or you can get a regular grow bag. This one doesn't have, this one is cloth. It doesn't have the window, but I love it because the good thing about grow bags is that the roots can actually breathe. With any plant, whether it's a sweet potato or you're growing peppers in grow bags, grow bags are great because the roots get to spread and breathe through the fiber of the bag. These grow bags are 10 gallons. I would suggest that the container size should be 10 gallons so you can get a good amount of sweet potatoes. You can probably fit 3 to 4 slips in there, or 3 slips are really best in a 10-gallon bag. Never overwater your sweet potatoes. What I do, once my sweet potato vines are established, I very rarely water. If it's raining, if it rains every now and then, I allow the rain to handle it. One thing you can look at is if the leaves look droopy. Like right now, the leaves kind of look a little bit droopy. I could give it a light watering. One thing I didn't tell you about when you first plant the vines, be sure that you soak the soil through all the way through. I sometimes just plant the slips and then soak it all the way through. One way you can know if something is really properly watered is by sticking your finger into the soil at least 2 inches down. A lot of times, and this is not a big mistake I made all the time, not just with sweet potatoes, but I would come in with my hose and water the place. Everything looks wet and I think it's good. But when I go down in the dirt, like an inch, I will see that it's bone dry. So that means it's not properly watered. This soil, you always have to go down at least 2 inches and make sure that the soil is nice and moist. So that's a tip with watering. The reason why you should not ever overwater sweet potatoes is because the potatoes will rot. Right? So you don't ever want to overwater it. You want to make sure that the soil is nice and loose, but you know, nice and moist, but never overwater it. Once it gets wet or once it's muddy, that's a bad thing. Another thing that I want to talk to you is about once your vines start growing, don't allow the vines to fall over and take root. As you can notice here, I'm propping my sweet potato vines up on this trellis to keep it away from the ground. Come a little closer, I want to show you something. Every one of these leaves, everywhere you see this little thing, this is potential roots, right? So every leaf is a potential root, is a potential slip that you can plant and grow more sweet potatoes. So this is another huge mistake I made as a newbie sweet potato and I just learned this maybe like 6 months ago or a year ago. When you allow the sweet potatoes to take root, then you're competing with the energy. The plant needs to put all the energy into the 3 or 4 slips you planted in this pot so that those sweet potatoes can get nice and big. If I allow these to fall in the dirt and start taking roots, it's then gonna start trying to, you know, grow 10, 20, 15 different sets of sweet potatoes. So you're gonna end up having some little tiny sweet potatoes or just a bunch of roots, and you're not gonna actually grow good sweet potatoes. So as much as if you wanna grow additional sweet potatoes, which I love to do, I cut some of the vines and I stick them in different pots or stick them in different areas. That way the roots, the leaves and the roots put all the energy into growing the sweet potatoes, nice big sweet potatoes in this bag. You don't want to wait 4 months and be disappointed because you didn't, you know, follow that step and you allowed them to take root. That also did happen to me, so I don't want you to make the same mistake. Once you've picked your spot, you have your perfect soil, you put in your organic matter and you're ready to go, don't overcrowd the pot, right? So in like this one that I just did on the last video that we had, I have 6 vines in here. I probably could have done 4 or 5 vines. I probably am gonna relocate 1 or 2 of these vines. You wanna give the sweet potato definitely depth. So you can see this has a whole lot of space to go all the way down. And believe me, they go all the way down to the bottom. I also drilled a ton of holes at the bottom, because if you have a container like this and you don't drill holes, the sweet potatoes, the water will fill up when it rains or when you water, and it will rot. So critical. You don't have to drill holes if it's a grow bag, because those automatically, the air and the water automatically comes out. But if it's a plastic container or any kind of container, flip it over, get a drill bit or a knife or something, and stab a whole bunch of holes at the bottom. Pretty popular question was, should I cut the vines or let them grow? I actually do both. Sweet potato leaves are essential to capture the sun and to let the sweet potatoes grow big. If you cut all the vines, you're gonna have weak sweet potatoes. It's gonna weaken the plant, weaken the sweet potatoes. The leaves are critical. It's good to make them trellis, that way they capture more sun, and that they'll grow healthier. However, I also cut them back. As I mentioned on the first video, I love to cook sweet potato greens. So what I'll do is, with this vine, I like to get the youngest, most tender. So I usually go towards the end of the vines and cut them, and in no time they're gonna grow back. So even if I cut them back to say here, and I harvest all these leaves, these younger leaves, they're gonna grow back like within a week or in a few days. So you don't ever want to cut them all the way back. It's always better to trellis them up so they capture more sunlight and they grow better. And you can cut them back, especially if you're gonna share with friends. I'm huge on sharing with friends. I have all my friends growing, and as I just showed you, it's very simple to grow these. So even if you cut them back, you know what, let's do one right now. So let's say I'm gonna cut this one. So I'm gonna cut it right here. This is in no way affecting the plant because there's just so much. What I can do is, as I cut it here, if I wanted to cook it, I would just cut the leaves directly off it. But if I want to make additional slips, what I'll do is, say I cut it here. Let me cut it here. So now we have 4 leaves. I'll cut the 2 lower leaves. And then now this is a slip that's ready to plant, right? So we can do this. We can cut the leaves and we can stick them back in. Actually, it's this way. You can usually tell how the tree, how it grew by this way. So this is a slip that's ready to plant. If I was gonna cook it, I would take this part off and just cook the leaves. Usually when I'm cooking, I cook only the leaves. I'm gonna actually put a link to a couple of my favorite recipes. There are just so many. If you Google best sweet potato leaf recipes, you're gonna see a whole lot of Asian recipes. I like to stir fry it with a little soy sauce, or I use a little oyster sauce, or even fish sauce. I always dice up my little garlic and I stir fry the garlic first, and I throw my leaves in and steam it down. There are a million ways. All right, so I'm gonna tell you another little secret that really is gonna help us, especially as newbies. So a mistake I made, and I have to admit I made it again, is when you plant your sweet potatoes, you know that you're not gonna forget the date you planted it, or you know, the kind of sweet potato, because I have different kinds growing. So here's what I do. And I actually got this tip from one of my newbie friends, Tony. Hey Tony. I actually saw her do it, and I started doing it. You just take a regular plastic, get a pack of plastic knives, and write what you're planting. So it's J sweet, that means Jamaican sweet potato, and I planted these on 7/26. And then on the back side, I write the date I need to harvest. I'm gonna harvest these in just about 4 months. I'm gonna harvest these November 16th. So that way, you know, after a month or two, you might totally forget either the type of sweet potatoes you planted or when you planted it, which is what is happening to me. So for these ones I just planted, I made sure to write the date and the time. The last question someone asked is, how do you know when the sweet potatoes are ready? And you can usually tell first, of course, if you label them and put the date on them, and also you'll start seeing the ends of the vine starting to turn yellow or start to die off. So that's the final tip I have for you today. I know that there are a whole lot of other folks out there that you could be listening. I thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. I loved all the feedback and the comments I got yesterday. Keep it coming. Don't forget to click like and subscribe and click the notification button so you can see the next one. And please, please, please share this video with your friends. The reason I'm doing this, the passion of my heart is teaching people to grow food. So So please, we can all grow food together. It doesn't cost anything, especially once you get these slips going. You can have slips for life. All your friends can be growing sweet potatoes. This is just one of many things that I grow. I like to grow foods that are constantly producing themselves, and I would post other videos about things like bananas and growing papayas and a whole bunch of ginger, a whole bunch of fun stuff. So till next time, let's plant, grow, and eat together. Thank you.